I call this meeting to order of Smithfield Town Council, March the 4th, 2025. Let us please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving right along, I'd like to see the informational section from the town manager.
Yes, sir. Mayor and members of council, included in your packet is the activity report for the month as well as the summary reports from the committees. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions? At this time, we've got some presentations I'd like to make. We have three tonight: Randy Pack, Jim Collins, and Raynard Gibbs. I'm going to ask Randy to come up to the podium, if you will. I'm going to present you this plaque. I would like everybody to sort of see what we're giving. I don't see any money attached. He made so much after 12 and a half years. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for 12 and a half years of outstanding service and dedication to the town of Smithfield, town council, and the planning commission. I don't know how you did it. I really don't. July 2012 and December 2024. You did an outstanding job.
Thank you, sir.
Really did. We you and I ran together. I was proud of you then, and I watched you really handle yourself super well during the whole process. And I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you.
We'll miss you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
At this time, I'd like to ask Jim to come forward, please. How you doing, Jim? This is a resolution of appreciation. Whereas Jim Collins, a resident of Smithfield, proudly served the citizens of Smithfield as an appointed official from December 19th, 2023 until November the 15th, 2024, after being appointed by the Smithfield Town Council to fill an unexpired term. And whereas during Mr. Collins' tenure on town council, he demonstrated excellent leadership, qualities in local government, his commitment to fulfilling the responsibilities in his appointed position, effectively addressing challenges and working collaboratively with his colleagues and the community, and truly commendable. And whereas Mr. Collins performed his duties on council by participating as chairman of the Public Safety Committee, Mr. Collins also served as a member of the Public Works Committee and the Public Buildings and Welfare Committee. Therefore, it is resolved that I, Michael G. Smith, Mayor of the town of Smithfield, on behalf of the town council, wish to formally extend to Mr. Collins on this 4th day of March 2025 our sincere appreciation for his dedication and loyal service to the town of Smithfield as a member of the town council. And be it further resolved that this resolution will be spread upon the permanent records of the Smithfield Town Council, and that a suitable copy therefore be delivered to Mr. Jim Collins. Thank you. is also a resolution of appreciation. Whereas Mr. Raymond Gibbs, a resident of Smithfield, proudly served the citizens of Smithfield as an appointed official from January 1st, 2024 through December the 31st, 2024, after being appointed by the Smithfield Town Council to fill an unexpired term. Whereas Mr. Gibbs' tenure on Town Council, he demonstrated excellent leadership, qualities in local government, his commitment to fulfilling the responsibilities of this appointed position, effectively addressing the challenges and working collaboratively with his colleagues and the community on truly commendable. And whereas Mr. Gibbs performed his duties on council by participating as chairman of the Parks and Recreation Committee, Mr. Gibbs also served as a member of the Public Safety Committee and the Water and Sewer Committee. And therefore, be it resolved that I, Michael G. Smith, Mayor of the Town of Smithfield, on behalf of the Town Council, wish to formally extend to Mr. Gibbs on this 4th day of March 2025 our sincere appreciation for his dedication and loyal service to the Town of Smithfield as a member of the Smithfield Town Council. Be it further resolved that this resolution will be spread upon the permanent records of the Smithfield, Town of Smithfield, and that a suitable copy therefore be delivered to Mr. Raymond Gibbs. Thank you, sir. At this time, we'll move to public comments. I have Lawrence Pitt signed up to speak.
Thank you for the opportunity to come to talk to you just a little bit. As you know, Mr. Luter was the benefactor for Smithfield, and for some reason or another, he found it as something that I could help him with, and I did. And we have a nice, wonderful out at the now. Anyway, but what is bothering me or concerning me at this point in time, it appears that there's some people or peoples, I don't know how many, are decided that it's a good idea that they would put a big boulder up there to pay or to let people know who they are. And I just think that's a really unnecessary kind of thing. It's kind of, it doesn't do any good for the courthouse, not the courthouse, but for the event itself. And it's just, I would like to see it removed. I know there are 3 of them right now. I'd like to see them removed, and that there would be some sort of advice to say, whenever they see it, your workers, they see one of those things up there, just have it removed. There's no need for us to put anything out there. The park itself is is more about the animals and so forth that are there, and you do nothing in there. And I reckon it was 2 years ago, I sent a letter to the town council explaining that shouldn't be doing anything in there except what animals do. They go in there and they run around in it, and we, the people, we walk around there and we walk down the trails and we can see their trails, and every now and then we'll see the animals. And it's been a wonderful place, and is starting to wane a little bit when you start putting names up there, and they don't even name, well, they don't name themselves, to tell you the truth. Somebody else is doing it for them. I don't know why. And I don't see the point of doing that. Why are we going to cover up a natural place for animals that we can see, and we don't have to go far to see that kind of thing? And I've talked to many people that since I've been going back and forth there, and they're out of town and everything, and they brag about Windsor Castle. You know, I don't take any credit for it. Mr. Luter, he put the money out there for it, and he made it happen. And I was fortunate enough that he asked me to do the work, and I really appreciate the fact that he did that. And I think it's turned out to be very nice. And Mr. Luter himself has praised me several times, and I think many, many people in the town of Smithfield have spoken to me and praised how well this is done for the town of Smithfield.
1 minute. Good, 1 minute.
One more?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't have anything else to say. I just would like to see we keep the place clean and keep it to what the purpose of it is being. And we don't need to have markers about whoever put those markers out there. Okay? Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Pitt. Appreciate you coming up and speaking. Next on the list is Eldon Ross.
What's the time limit? I've never been-
5 minutes.
And I'll be
Yes,
much
sir.
shorter
Get
than
your
that.
address, your name and address would be helpful.
Okay, Eldon Ross, I'm at 106 Montpelier Way, Smithfield Homes, right there off of Church Street. I was the first person to move in. I lived here since '07. It's the first time I've been to the meeting. I apologize. So I have a couple of what I consider safety concerns. Since I come out of the townhomes, take a left on Smithfield Boulevard, and I'm coming up and I'm looking right at South Church Street. Cypress Dentist on my right. Their sign is a significant safety hazard at that place. What drivers are doing over and over is they're coming up past the the big white line, which my understanding, that delineates the intersection. You're not supposed to be out there till you're ready to turn through it, but they can't see around a sign. Okay? And between the two cars, it's like two racehorses coming out of the chute, you know. One inches up, then the other one inches up. So I saw that one coming, but I didn't come see anybody because I saw the reconstruction of that building. The other safety concern I have is I'm leaving the high school this morning, dropping off my granddaughter. I pick her up 3 times a week. And I know there's a big construction thing done down there at that intersection for Turner. So I'm leaving the high school this morning, coming out to Ben's Church, correct? Yeah. I'm going to make a left turn, but I'm sitting there waiting for the light to turn green so I can make a left turn to go back home. 2 vehicles come through the red light on that intersection. A white pickup truck, and the traffic in the lane there on Turner, there wasn't a gap for them. Okay, so it's all blocked. There was no direction out there on Turner. The white pickup truck pulls off on the shoulder to the right because he had no place to go. The 2 high school kids, very young, obviously high school students, decided they were going to go through the intersection, and they had no place to go. And they ended up parked in the middle of the intersection. I say the middle, they were to the Turner Drive side, but the entire car is sticking out. So the people wanting to come straight, coming from Ringo's Donuts place and going toward the church, they've got to go around that car that's in the intersection. I don't know what can be done. I don't have any solutions other than I'd like to see it addressed, because now I feel uncomfortable going through the intersection. You know, it's like, and I've done combat tours, so I've got a couple of really wild places behind me. This was beginning to get up on my list. I don't feel comfortable in there. I have 2 wishes, okay? So these are, the dumpster comes to dump the dumpster right behind my building. So it's that parking lot next to the Papa John's. The last time that I noted the time when they were there dumping that thing, because they bang it 3 or 4 times, I guess, to get everything out, was 6:04 a.m. I'm an early bird, but I think there are a lot of people there that aren't. I might be the only one willing to get up and say anything about it. If there can be an adjustment, I think it would be appreciated there. What was my other note? Oh, and this is sort of a safety thing. I don't have a real good, and I've got pictures of of that intersection at Cypress Dennis. The noises at night on Church Street. I swear to goodness, it sounds to me like I've intended to get up there and just go do a video of it. But it sounds like these clowns are street racing up there. When I was growing up and got a driver's permit and license, street racing was illegal. Between the loud exhausts and the accelerations as I hear, my master bedroom windows face South Church. I think most of the buildings are organized that way.
1 minute.
All right? So I don't know what the solution is there. It just seems excessively fast. And of course, the loud exhausts are really audible. Questions for clarification?
Yes.
Let's go back to your first one. Give me the exact intersection, because I want to take a drive through there. So what road,
Okay, so we're talking about where the sign from the dentist.
right?
Okay, so if I'm coming from the Catholic Church down there on Smithfield Boulevard,
Got it.
okay, coming up to South Church,
Got it.
Cypress Tennis is on the right, and their sign sits between the building and the road. That's what creates the block.
I got you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I've got a picture of that if somebody wants some. I brought 4 or 5 pictures. Any other questions? Thanks. I saw
Thank you, Mr.
voted
Ross.
last year. You told me to come to this, and I missed it.
Thank you, Mr. Ross, for coming up and speaking. At this time, the next on the list is Bob Hines.
Bob Hines, 216 Washington. Couple of historical articles that might be of interest. They interested me anyway. Smithfield Times, September 14, 1988. Headline article by John Edwards. Luter fears growth as sewer lines result. The chairman of Smithfield Foods said this week his company's reluctance to participate in the construction of a large sewage main through northern Isle of Wight County is based partially on the impact the line could have on the county. Joseph Luter III said in an interview Monday that the proposed sewer line along 17 to Smithfield would create an explosion in growth that we are, quote, not able to cope with. When a similar line was proposed a decade before, sanitation said it would be only be financially feasible if Smithfield's 2 packing plants were to agree to connect to it, thus providing most of the daily sewage flow needed to pay for the project. Plant officials said they were not interested because it would be more expensive to have Hampton Road Sanitation treat the waste and do it themselves. The line has now been proposed again, and officials have said again it can be financed almost totally by participation from the plants in the town of Smithfield. Without their participation, the estimated 1,300 homes or their equivalent would have to be tied to the line in northern Isle of Wight to cover the interest on money used in construction. Isle of Wight County would be responsible for that interest. Luter said several weeks ago that the packing plants probably would still not participate in the project because the estimated $1 million additional annual operating cost. But Luter went further in comments this week. He said he's equally concerned about the growth the project would necessitate. I think Smithfield Foods would be more inclined to put its plants on the system if we thought it would help create an environment in the county rather than worsen it. Right now, I'm convinced we're just not prepared to thoughtfully absorb the growth. Luter said that without the line, the county can still grow at a more moderate rate. It's inevitable we will have growth, but the citizens of Isle of Wight should look long and hard at the long-term effects and growth for growth's sake. One of the biggest lies of all time is you have to have growth of tax base in order to keep taxes down. In fact, taxes do nothing but go up when an area is changed from a rural nature to a residential commercial. With explosive growth, the net results is the explosion of tax rates. Luter said the county is in an ideal position to attract only that development which is going to enhance the quality of life and should be quite selective in what it approves. Now, a month later, Smithfield Times had its own editorial. Now, not a letter to the editor, but Smithfield Times itself. The title is Into the Abyss. Well, they did it. In what may have been the most arrogant display of power this county has ever witnessed, 3 members of the Board of Supervisors presumed to tell us and our descendants what our wishes and dreams for Isle of Wight County are, that are parochial, small townish, and not progressive enough for their taste. Supervisors Richard Turner, Henry Bradbury, and Joel Bradshaw, by voting Thursday to build a major sewer line through Carrollton, have opened the door forever to the type of progress that has turned suburbs from Fairfax to Virginia Beach into warm masses on infrared satellite photographs. From that vote forward, any buzzwords you hear from the courthouse about balanced growth, responsible planning, can be discounted as the hollow rhetoric that they have now been proven to be. There was no question going into Thursday's meeting that people of this county were not ready for and did not want Isle of Wight to become just another Tidewater suburb. But understand clearly that there is now little else on the horizon, at least for the northern end of the county. The Kings Colony development, while it's bigger than anything we country folk can imagine sprouting out of Carrollton soil, is not the real problem. The real horror is the prospect that Kings Colony is only the first of many. The sewage interceptor, which these 3 men embrace so warmly, will leave the board little choice but to approve more and more major subdivisions. And what does this future hold for us? Simple. We get to pay the additional cost of government that surely will be generated by a frenzy of development activity. Mr. Bradshaw, when taking what may have been his strongest stand ever, said it was time for the county to roll up our sleeves and go to work for progress. A critic listening to the proceedings countered later that Mr. Bradshaw should roll up his pants legs instead because he and his 2 colleagues had certainly stepped in it. We couldn't say it better than that. So here we are, 37 years later.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. At this time, we move to council comments. Any council member need to have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a few comments before we actually get to the business of the evening. Last night, Mary Ellen and I had a meet and greet. We had a number of citizens come and sit with us and share their ideas and concerns. We came away with a lot of information, but a couple things struck me very importantly and that I wanted to share and make sure that we all keep in mind. Person after person thanked us at the end of the meeting for allowing them to share their ideas, their desires, and their hopes for the town with representatives of our municipal government. Their words impressed upon me once again that the citizens have placed a great deal of trust in the members of the town council, and they ask us to be careful in our judgment and consider all things before we reach a judgment. One of the things that struck me also is that this is only the 3rd meeting of the newly elected town council. And we have virtually been inundated with major issue after major issue. And we've hurried a bit too much here and there to address issues so that we can move on. I think it is important for us, as the mayor says, to not be in a rush, but to slow ourselves down and realize that correctness is more important than expediency. We need to take deep breaths and give ourselves time to investigate, question, debate, communicate with our citizens and receive their input before we rush to judgment. Not complaining. None of us that are now on council are troubled by all of the work or all of the issues in front of us. We knew what we were getting into when we declared our candidacies. And we are here because we want to reach solid, consensus, positive decisions. And I'm suggesting tonight that we could do a better job of reaching those positive results if we slow down a little bit, do a little bit better job of due diligence and homework, and have the opportunity to share not only amongst each other here, but with the feedback from the folks who elected us to do this job. Excellence over speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Anyone else from council?
I'd like to say something, Mayor. I'm going to piggyback on what Vice Mayor Harris said. We had a meet and greet last night that was at the Smithfield Library. It was advertised on the town website, on the library's website. Some social media picked it up. In the community calendar in the Smithfield Times. And we had a pretty good turnout. We had 17, 18 people there. Some people stayed the whole time. Some people kind of came and went, but I want to thank the citizens that did come, and I want to thank them for their time and their sharing their concerns and their feedback. That was very helpful to Bill and I, and we plan to keep on doing this. And I mean, anybody's free to do it, obviously. I enjoy doing it. I probably will peg every single one of you guys to do it with me if you want to. And so we're going to try and find a variety of times, a variety of places. This happened to be an evening one. I'd like to do one during the day. We have some people, seniors especially, don't drive at night, so we'll do one during the day. Try and do one on the weekend. Different places. But I just want to tell the citizens thank you very much for those that did come out, and we appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you, Ms. Beefelmeyer. Anyone else have any comments? If not, we'll move to the consent agendas. Does anyone want to pull anything on the consent agendas before we start?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. On your agenda, C1, resolution to appropriate funds from Historic Smithfield into the general fund operating budget for proposed scope of work for Gray Street streetscapes. I would like to see that moved from consent to the action agenda later on tonight.
Yes, sir. Next on the item is, anyone else want to pull anything? At this time, we'll move to C2. This is invoices over $20,000. Mr. Brooks.
Yes, sir. In front of you, we have 4 invoices that were recommended from our council committee meetings for approval. I make a motion to approve all 4 invoices as listed.
That's it for the consent agenda tonight. What's the will of?
That was a motion, you need a
Yes,
second.
I know, I'm getting there.
Oh, well, no, he made a motion though.
Yeah, I know.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes?
Mayor Smith?
At this time, we'll move to the action section. We'll pick up where we left off on C1, back to the resolution appropriated funds. Mr. Bill Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move this to the action section for a number of reasons, not the least of which is what I spoke to you about a few moments ago. There are a number of things presented in this particular action that many of us on town council would like to know a lot more about. We want to be very careful. When I ran, and a lot of you have heard me speak about this before, I'm definitely a fiscal conservative. And we want to be very careful before we authorize the spending of money or even the acceptance of money to examine this project. When we go through and we look at the plan offered up by, I won't say it wrong, Kimley Horn, there are enough things in there that are specific and technical that I feel need further explanation not just for myself, but for others. This was one of the things that we ran into last night, the public asking for a little bit of clarity and an explanation before we move forward, particularly on the expenditure of funds. So I have moved this to the action agenda in the hopes that the action that we take will be to table and move this to our next set of committee meetings so that we can do an in-depth study of the proposal before we commit the money, both offered up by Historic Smithfield or by the town.
Yes, sir, Vice Mayor, I agree with you. We just learned about this last week, and it looks really good on paper, but there's a lot of questions that came up with me, and I really think that we need to take our time on this and thoroughly understand. I absolutely appreciate what Historic Smithfield has offered, but I'd like to delve into it just a little bit more, and I think some of the council members as well might want that opportunity. So I'd like to see it tabled to the council committee meetings as well.
Do we need a motion to table it?
You do.
Okay.
I make a motion to table this to the next committee meetings.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? If not, call for the question.
Vice Mayor Harris?
A yes vote is to table.
Yes. To table.
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Aye. Moving along with the action section, very first thing is a public hearing on a text amendment for the zoning ordinance. Ms. Clary.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. The applicant is seeking a text amendment to the downtown neighborhood residential zoning district. This would be to add a waiver of maximum density as a special use permit item. The applicant is proposing a new site plan for the project on Washington and James Street. Just as a reminder, had this project come forth at the beginning prior to the recordation of the final plat that platted Clay Street there, this would be a by right use at that 10 units. Thank you. Oh, I apologize. It was recommended to Town Council at the Planning Commission meeting with 1 nay vote. Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to speak about this? We have no sign-ups. Do we have discussion from council? Oh, we see someone coming up here. Please, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Again, I'd like to thank you for this time tonight. I know we were here, I don't know if it was a couple weeks ago, but we stayed pretty late, and I appreciate being on top of the agenda tonight. So thank you, whoever scheduled that. Some months ago, we purchased some property from Mr. Luter, which is now encompassed by Clay Street, James Street, and Washington Street. And some improvements that were made make this property certainly my ambition to purchase and develop. We've come up with a concept of James Street Park, which shows about 10 units. And in that genesis of, we really felt strongly that the DNR zoning that we have right now is almost a little bit contradictory according to the verbiage in that zoning. So with, I guess, the etiquettes and prerequisites to get here tonight, what is paramount is the text edit amendment, maybe to get to the starting line. And that's why we're here tonight, along with Mr. John Hopke here, of Hopke Associates. We have presented some conceptuals, and I know in the past, from Planning Commission to a few weeks ago, we certainly opened up some questions, answered them as best and accurately as we could. Unfortunately, I know there were some questions we couldn't accurately answer at the time on some square footages. But I think what, just again, getting to the starting line, it's going to require a text edit amendment for this. And I think to piggyback on what Vice Mayor Harris said and Ms. Mary Ann here, I can't thank you enough for the communication. Certainly, not only getting to this point, but watching town councils, planning commissions, helping with the vision of Smithfield. I'm happy to be a small part of it. And I thank you for this time. I would love to answer any questions. And John, I guess, this is John Hopke from Hopke Associates.
And we have a brief slideshow here. Since we presented it 3 times already, I'm hoping we're getting brownie points by shortening it a lot. And so if you could, or do I do it here or do you do it there? Just on the other. Oh, slide. Okay, so our objective is we're seeking a text amendment for an additional special use permit condition in the DNR zoning ordinance to allow for infill planned residential development with the density greater than 5 units an acre, so as to be compatible with the established density and scale of the existing neighborhood. Next slide. The expressed intent of the ordinance is to continue new development in the character of the existing neighborhood. And I highlighted the first part there. It says, the principal objective of this district is to recognize, maintain, and reinforce the existing sense of neighborhood in and around the downtown historic areas, and to promote residential development of compatible scale, historic character, and architectural massing. And further down it says that the maximum density should be 5 units an acre. Next slide. The comprehensive plan proposes the same thing. Next slide. But the 5 unit per acre maximum makes it impossible to replicate the existing historic residential fabric, character, and scale. We've shown you an aerial of where our site is and the neighborhood next to it, where the density is much greater than 5 units an acre. And this planning staff has provided a lot of documentation of other DNR areas where the density is close to or even exceeding 10 units an acre. Next slide. So we've also provided a conceptual plan and images to demonstrate how a higher density would allow for development that is complementary to the scale and density of the existing neighborhood. Next slide. Per the stated goals of the DNR ordinance and the town's own architectural design guidelines. Next slide. And as we've presented this, we've heard a lot of concerns and we've tried to address them as best we can. And on this slide, I want to try to recall those and share with you our thoughts. One issue that's come up is some confusion about what a special use permit really is. It is not a special exception or variance granted for the benefit of a developer. What it is a process used by a municipality to encourage, but still regulate, land use in a zoning district by making it subject to a special review and criteria detailed in the zoning ordinance. In other words, it is a tool for municipalities to incentivize development patterns they want to see. Another issue that's come up, and I don't think we ever really used the term downzoning, but that's what we've been talking about, which is overlaying a low maximum density on an existing high density neighborhood. Downzoning actually requires developers to target a more affluent market in order to cover the same land acquisition and development costs. Downzoning can contribute to gentrification by limiting the supply of affordable housing, which then drives up prices, forcing lower income residents out and making way for higher income individuals to move in, thus changing the character of the community. In one of our prior meetings, Mrs. Butler spoke very movingly, I thought, about her experience with gentrification. And to me, it's something you don't want to promote through your own zoning ordinance. Downzoning prevents the stated goal of this ordinance to protect the scale and character of the existing neighborhood. In other words, the ordinance, as currently written, is in conflict with itself. So what's the remedy? What we're proposing, a text amendment for an additional special use permit condition to allow for infill planned residential development with a density greater than 5 units an acre, so as to be compatible with the established density and scale of an existing neighborhood. And I want to note that a text amendment is not an unusual or extreme remedy. Zoning ordinances are written with the anticipation of being amended over time to better serve community goals as misalignments such as this one are discovered. And I think we have that video, if you want to run it, just of our concept. But as you look at this, I want to emphasize, it's a concept. We did this so that we could show you that we can develop at this density and be consistent with the architecture and the character and the scale of the existing neighborhood.
Any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're
Okay.
here to answer questions.
All right. We appreciate it. Yes, sir.
If I may, just for clarification, so we know what we're acting on, what's before you tonight is the text amendment. Although they have shown a project, you're not voting on this project. It is merely the text amendment that would allow someone to apply for a special use permit. So just so it's clear, that's what is before you tonight is the text amendment.
Does anyone on council have any questions about the text amendment?
Yeah, I have a couple questions, Mr. Mayor. First, did you resolve the square footage since our last meeting?
You want to answer?
Mr. Cutler, no, we have, still don't have exact accuracies. I think we're still a little early into that. We gave a range of, I think when we were here a few weeks ago, of about 1,500 to 2,500 or 2,400 square foot. At this point, no, I have no complete accuracy on square footage, but just the range.
And, you know, I'd like to suggest that's a perfect question for us to have an answer for when we're applying for the SUP.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I was going to say, just before we get into too much discussion, we do need to conclude the public hearing. So if there's anybody else for or against, and then we can go down the path of discussion.
Anyone else like to speak on the text amendment?
Yeah, Bob Hines, 216 Washington. Talk about keeping within the character of the neighborhood. I don't have a problem with something going there. But two-story duplexes is not in the character of the historic district. Certainly not Washington, James, Cary along there. They're not there. This is going to be, kind of to use Doc Pope's word, kind of cluttered, two-story duplexes there. And you got another problem. I just pointed out to Mr. Brooks. The easement for the town, for the trees, shows it going all the way to Clay Street. Some of those houses are in that easement. Thank you.
Okay, I want to keep in mind that we are addressing the text amendment only. I really don't want to get into a deep rabbit hole about this, and I'd like to address the text amendment. Does anyone on council have any comments about addressing that?
I have a question.
And a clarification for that? Yeah,
Close the hearing.
yeah. All right,
Close the hearing.
all right, we'll close the hearing now.
All right,
Now, I'd like to move to council comments.
I have a question. Can you go back a couple slides to the density stuff? Who developed these cutouts on the left and lower section?
The planning staff.
Why are we using town-funded resources to do research that supports the developer's development? That seems contrary. That should be developer research that's being done, not...
It was incumbent upon staff to evaluate what the existing densities were to either say, yes, we were doing that research anyway, so we could determine what the existing densities were in the downtown neighborhood residential. And since we had done it and were asked to provide it, we did. So, I mean, it was part of our,
Asked by who?
well, we were provided it at the last council meeting. Council asked us to provide it, so at that point in time, it's a public document.
Okay, I don't recall asking for that, but, I mean, it was provided in the last meeting without being asked for, but.
Right, we had done that work ahead of time so we could answer that question if it came up.
Yeah, again, I think that's the developer's question to answer.
I know Mr. Cutler probably has another question or two, but let me ask a follow-up. Have you all gone back and done the same sort of analysis on Clay James and Grace now? Seem to have left out that very important section of downtown historic Smithfield, which is the real representation that we would like to see replicated by any development in the area, and those seem to be a really glaring omission.
We have not gone further than this, no, sir.
Okay, so since we've closed the public hearing, I'd like to find out what is the will of council on this vote?
I have a comment for the council, not a question, before we make a motion. So in the most recent election, again, we spoke with many citizens, and reining in and managing growth, much as Mr. Hines discussed, was been being discussed for 30 years, was, I believe, the primary focus of the residents of the town of Smithfield. Now, in this case, Mr. Crollo is a fine, upstanding citizen of the town of Smithfield. He does great work here, and I appreciate you coming out to make this presentation. However, I think it's time for the town council, starting with this project, to stand up to developers and say, adhere to our zoning requirements, not ask us to rewrite them for them. And I understand this is a text amendment. It's common. However, if we really want to build 10 homes per acre in the historic district, then I would propose that somebody research and make a motion to make that zoning change, because that would give every owner of property in the historic district the ability to do that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily support it, but that would be a more correct way to deal with this infill building. We have a limit. The developer is already developing in excess of the limit. He purchased the land with the ability to build 8 homes, vice 5. And I think that more matches the character of the historic district. And I drove all through there, and I drove through the sections that were on the map that Ms. Clary provided. And I would say that it's not exactly that clear. There are some locations where houses are excluded from the block, and so without having the counter analysis of, okay, what is the density of the rest of downtown, I don't really think that's a fair representation of justification for this project, and I would like to make a motion to decline the text amendment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I have further discussion.
Well, discussion can come after the second.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have no second.
Second.
Mary Ellen, second. All right, any further discussion by the text amendment?
And piggyback on where Michael is, I know we had a lot of discussion on this project on Monday, and I was just wondering if we had done it a disservice, mainly because it's a text amendment. And to answer Mr. Cutler's question in reference to staff doing this research for the developer, I don't believe that that's how Tammy started doing the research. I know I had several conversations with Tammy to understand the density better and why a text amendment was being requested. And my question to her was, or during our conversation, what does the density in the historic district look like when this ordinance that we have is from 1998? And all the communities were already developed. So I'm wondering how town council or planning or community development even came up with 5 at that time. But I thought we had a very good discussion on the density in this DNR district when we had the joint meeting on Tuesday night. To say that we are giving preferential treatment to a developer, I don't look at it like that. Dr. Pope gave a very good definition of SUPs, and I thought Mr. Hopsky did also in his presentation, as it not showing preferential treatment to a developer or allowing a developer to make more money, and it appears that some of us feel that way. My job is not to stifle how much money a developer makes. That's what a developer does. As long as we get a quality product in our community, that's what I'm more so concerned about. And I don't look at this as a new project. Mr. Luda project has already been approved. If Vinny wanted to just come in and build what Mr. Luda wanted has been approved, he can do that. But personally, I think Vinny's project is a better project. The price point is better, and I do think it's more compatible with the Riverview community than Mr. Luder's. Mr. Luder's has already been approved for duplexes, so Vinny is not really asking for anything new. So I don't know if we're having too much discussion about the text amendment, or should we just look at the text amendment and what he's asking for? And if he's still interested in presenting the package to us, then we have more in-depth conversation then. I don't know if it's a cart before the horse or how much discussion should be taking place.
And I agree with most of what you say, Ms. Butler. However, what we're seeing here is a cherry picking of portions of the historic district that match the desired development. We're not seeing a full analysis of the entire historic district or the entire property in the town of Smithfield that's zoned for 5 homes per acre. Additionally, I agree with you. I think that his price point, if he stays at 150 per square feet, will be great, and that can be built in 8 homes just as well as 10 homes.
But it sounds like we want to prevent him from even doing the text amendment, and if that happens, he doesn't have the opportunity to submit his package to us, so we know exactly what it looks like.
Well,
Tammy,
excuse
me, I'm sorry. Tammy, can you come up and explain what this text amendment does, that we're not voting on this project tonight, and what happens if the text amendment fails or passes? Can you clarify that, please?
Yes, sir. So in order for the applicant to actually put forth the application of this revised site plan, they do need to have this text amendment in place. This text amendment is not solely for this applicant. It would be available to any developer, any applicant that wanted to pursue any sort of development in the downtown neighborhood residential. It would provide this mechanism for a waiver of maximum density so that they would be able to exceed the 5 units per net developer acre restriction that is currently set under the DNR.
Does anyone have any comments about the text amendment, please?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, well, I just want to ask quick, so if it passes, it allows developers to request that they have more than 5 units per acre. So in
Correct.
that sense, we're encouraging a higher density.
You're providing the opportunity
that
for
they
them
can have
to
more
apply
density.
for it.
Okay, thank you.
So as it relates to this text amendment and what we've seen with growth in the town as of late is go big and scale back. So, you know, it doesn't stop someone, it doesn't limit it to 10 homes per acre. It says you can make a waiver for anything. So you can have someone come in here next time and say, well, let me get 12 homes per acre. You did it for Mr. Carollo. I think you can do it for me as well. And this is why it would be better to me, if you really think, Ms. Butler or anybody else on council, it should be 10 homes per acre, then let's rezone the entire district, because this is a single point that doesn't require approval, because he already has 8 homes approved. So I don't think it's I don't think the request has merit, and we should change our zoning at the request of the developer.
Tammy, if this does pass, or It has to go back before planning, correct?
Correct. The applicant would be applying for a special use permit, so it would be a public hearing before Planning Commission for a recommendation to Town Council, for a public hearing before Town Council for a decision.
And then it comes back to town council for us to vote on at that time. So
Correct.
all this is doing is allowing them to apply for what they hope to possibly
sir.
have.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's not just allowing them to apply. It's allowing anybody in the future to apply for any waiver of density, whether it's 10 homes per acre or it's 25 homes per acre. You know, this opens the door to another developer coming in and seeing an acre, 1.2 acres of land that's open in the historic district and saying, oh, they've already paved the way for this. They've approved the text amendment. They've approved a special use permit. So I know it's going to be approved for me. And then we're going to see this growth in excess of what the people who sat in these chairs and wrote our zoning in 1998 or 96, whenever it was, and made that decision, and I suspect it was an educated decision for that number to preserve the town.
Michael and Tammy, I think you can explain this is just for this project. It's not, this does not carry on for another project,
Well,
does it?
If you put the text amendment in place, anybody can apply for the waiver. However, you are not required to approve it. And so by right, somebody can come in and do 5 units per acre. If there's a project that somebody wants to come in and it's more than that, they can request that. Again, it doesn't mean you approve it. You have all authority to deny it if you don't think it's appropriate. But if you change the base density to 10 by right, then you don't get say anymore. If somebody comes in for 9, it's approved because it's by right. Whereas if you do a special use permit, council still has to approve anything above 5. So you still get another say in this, regardless of what project it is, where it is, who it is. And if council doesn't feel it's appropriate, you have all legal authority to say no, regardless of previous decisions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I may, I would be lacking consistency if I didn't basically chime in and follow up. I made the same comment that when the cottages were being discussed, and that was that basically the text amendment was simply another tool in the toolbox for planning and zoning to be able to evaluate, then send it to the Planning Commission, who are our professional advisors to us. Obviously, I'm not lost on 2 things. Number one, Ms. Butler's comment that this zoning occurred in 1998. Things changed from 1998. I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent, but they do change. The other side is it again is no guarantee whatsoever that I would, and I said this for the cottages, I'll say this right here in front of them, there's no indication that I'm going to vote for the project or anyone here is going to vote for the project. But then again, when we're talking about, to my friend's point, as far as determining densities and looking at the big picture, I think to approve the text amendment, to get it to the Planning Commission, get it back to us so we can look at everything under the large microscope, I think not to do that. And I understand the angst about growth, which is another point that I'm going to get on. But the bottom line is I don't think that approving the text amendment, which would simply allow them to then apply for it, simply apply, is the wrong thing to do. Back to the unbridled and unrestrained growth, and I have been waiting a while to address that as you and I and Ms. Butler and Mr. Brooks have sat here and seen things occur. I think there's a misconception that needs to be clarified. Did we vote? Did I vote? Did I cast the deciding vote that's going to, the Grange to occur if it occurs? No doubt about it. I did that, raised my hand, but I did that because I thought it was the right thing to do in the right location. That's why I did that. These other developments that are coming down the pipe, you heard those gentlemen with the cottages the other night say, look, y'all don't have to do this to me. I got by right. A lot of this by right stuff that I think that those that are on different websites complaining about this council and what we're doing about how we are unbridled growth, and they don't, or either don't understand or don't care to understand that I had nothing to do with zoning in 1975. I was 15 years old with a learner's permit, or these other developments that are out there that are coming along the pipe, that all we can do is do the best we can with what we've got to work with. And I think that's a very important point that needs to get across. And to deny someone, and I'm pretty squared away as far as due process is concerned. I think to circumvent the capability of somebody to be heard as far as a project is concerned, to me, is a violation of due process to an extent. If there's an avenue available through the courts, one way or the other, and you're before them, you get to go all the way through the appellate process. And I'm not going to play lawyer tonight, but that's the way that I feel. I feel in this scenario that they certainly have a right to be heard, and to do something tonight that would circumvent, whether it's Mr. Carollo or whether it's Mr. Cutler or anyone else that would ultimately want to be heard should the circumstances change, I think is inappropriate. That's why I intend to make a substitute motion that the text amendment be approved with the caveat and with the understanding that I am in no way promising that when it comes before me that should be any indication of how I intend to vote. And I make that motion for a substitute motion to approve the text amendment.
We have a substitute motion to approve the text amendment. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other further discussion on the substitute motion?
I would just like to say, I mean, as I said about meeting with citizens on the campaign trail, they are very knowledgeable. They do understand the zoning ordinances, and they do follow and understand the decisions that this council makes. So I would not besmirch the intelligence of the electorate or anything like that. Our citizens are very informed about this and the growth that's taking place in the town.
Mr. Mayor, I also have a comment. Again, in the service of transparency, this is a difficult one for me. Having a development on that square done by a very well-respected and very well-liked developer and member of the community is something that I look forward to and totally embrace. But if I remove the personality and the drawings in front of me, and I consider only the legislative move that we are considering, I have difficulty endorsing that. I don't believe that we should amend zoning regulations that are in place, relying on the idea that somewhere down the line we can say no to everybody else who makes the same application with the justification it's now inappropriate. I thought Ms. Butler's remarks were good. Mr. Bowman's. This is obviously an issue that we have differing approaches on. But if I vote tonight, and it looks like we will be, I have to vote against the amendment because I think it's a really bad precedent, one. Two, I believe it's our job to listen to what citizens are telling us. To a person last night, please slow it down. Don't amend. Don't do this. Okay? These are important things, and they weigh heavily on me, and I believe it is my obligation as a member of town council and as an historian to do the very best I can in making sure that the historic district stays like it is. But again, my position is more philosophical in regards to tampering may not be the word that others would like to hear, but tampering with existing legislation for a single issue. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the substitute motion?
Go ahead, Mallory. Mayor Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the purpose of our meeting on Tuesday night jointly with the Planning Commission? I thought it was very good discussion, and I came away with some positives of it. And I know that there was a discussion around setting precedents. I don't remember if it was Jeff or if it was you, Bill, that talked about setting precedents for this particular project, that someone had had a conversation with a citizen that said, and I don't even know where the lot was located. I asked Jeff where it was located. Could someone go there and build a high-density project? And I vividly remember Charles Bryant and Dr. Pope talking about that. SUPs not setting precedents, that what it does is it allows a developer to come and ask, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if it's not in the vision of the historic district that we have to do that. So I don't think that anything that we do here or involving SUPs, I will put that caveat to it, sets precedents for any particular project. And each individual project has to stand on its own merit, that they're not cookie cutters, that let's say Vinnie's project or Steve has a project, maybe that one is exceeding the density, one may be approved and one may not be approved. You know, every project is not the same, so you can't judge them on the same caliber. You got to look at them individually. You know, we talk about duplexes. There are 2 duplexes that are eyesores right there on Main Street. So, and it's within walking distance of this particular project. There may not be any duplexes in that immediate neighborhood, but there are some duplexes that are within walking distance of that neighborhood. So, you know, maybe it's my misunderstanding, or I'm just a little bit more flexible in my thinking where developers are concerned. And that was one of the things that I did pick up in that planning class that I attended. And I mentioned, you know, I called the great Tammy on something that we had discussed in class, and Tammy passed. She did a very good job of that. And I think that we would be doing any developer a disservice to say no. It's not like we're going from 8 units to 25 units. We're talking about 2 other units. And Dr. Pope had Vinnie doesn't know the exact square footage, but I remember in one of the planning commission meetings, it said that Mr. Luter's square footage was 100,000 square feet, and that Vinnie's was 90,000 square feet. There may be more units, but they're smaller units, and they're taking up less square footage. You know, I just want to be fair and give him or the next person the opportunity that if they want to build here in Smithfield, that we take a closer look of what their project is going to look like.
I think you make some great points, Ms. Butler, but I would counter that we don't do disservice to developers. We serve at the honor of the people. And when we don't listen to the citizens of Smithfield, then we do a disservice to the citizens, and that's who we represent. So happens that Mr. Crollo is also a citizen. I understand that, but he's a private developer in this instance, and I think it's very important that we listen to the messages sent by the many citizens of the town of Smithfield.
My last comment, Darren, I don't want anybody, any citizen or you or anybody on town council to think that I don't want to listen to the citizens. But you see how things are complex for us? Do you think that a lot of the citizens really understand what they're dealing with, or understanding SUPs when they're asked for, or text amendments? Because there were some questions in our planning commission meeting that clarified some things for us. I would never question what a citizen knows or do not know, but some of the things that we're dealing with are complex. I've lived here all my life, so there's nobody on this town council other than probably Mike that has seen the growth in Smithfield that I have seen. And I think that every developer that comes before us, if it's a quality or if it's a reasonable project, that we deserve to listen to it. And that's what planning is. That's what their job is. You serve on that committee. You have a little bit more in-depth questions to determine whether or not, is this something we really want in downtown Smithfield?
So Mr. Carollo has been heard 3 times. And many of these citizens that we see in the crowd tonight are here every month. So they are very well informed, at least as informed as some of the council members are, as we had to request the staff get up and make clarification about what's taking place. So I don't think that we can say that we're even more informed than the citizens when that may not even be the case.
That's true.
All right, we've had any other discussion on that? We have a substitute motion to approve the text amendment. We have a second. Call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler?
This is to approve.
Is this to approve it? Yes.
This is to approve.
Substitute motion is to approve.
Ms. Butler?
She
I said yes.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
yes. Sorry.
Said that was my fault. Vice Mayor Harris?
No.
Councilman Cutler?
No.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
No.
Councilman Brooks?
No.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Abstain. Motion fails. We go to the original motion to not approve the text amendment. What's the will of council?
That's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Vice Mayor Harris?
May I hear the motion again, please?
Yes, the motion is to not approve.
denied.
Deny.
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
No.
Councilwoman Butler?
No.
Councilman Cutler?
Clarify again for me one more time. A yes is a denial.
Yes is to deny.
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Abstain. Motion fails.
No.
No.
Motion passes.
Oh, I'm sorry, the motion, I'm sorry. The
Motion
does
passes,
pass.
the text amendment
Yeah.
is not to be made.
I'm sorry. Okay, the next thing on the public hearing is the text amendment for Article 2, W2A. Tammy?
Yes, thank you. This is a staff proposed text amendment. This is just bringing our publication notice requirements in line with state code. If you remember, the General Assembly changed the timing for the required public notices, and we're just bringing our zoning ordinance in alignment with state code. Thank you.
Any questions for the public to address this? For this text amendment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we accept.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
open public hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
Bang that down.
Any questions from the public to speak about the text amendment that Tammy just
Oh,
explained?
Open, no,
Yeah.
not questions, open the public.
Yeah,
hearing.
open public meeting.
I got you.
No one comes forward? What's the will of council?
No, close the public hearing.
Yeah, okay, I'll close the public hearing. What's the will of council?
Motion to approve.
We have a second, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. You have a second? We have a second. Any discussion on this? Call for the question.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Abstain? Motion passes. We have another public hearing for text amendment Article 2K of the zoning ordinance. Ms. Clary?
Yes, thank you. Again, this is just bringing our zoning ordinance in line with state code, removing the annexation language. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak on that? If not, need to hear the will of council.
Close the
Close close the public hearing. What's the will of council?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Call for the question.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Abstain. Next, we have a public hearing for text amendment, Article 10E, 12 of the zoning ordinance. Ms. Clary?
Yes, thank you. This is just clarifying some language in our sign ordinance. It's removing the logos. This will allow them to be illuminated on signs. Thank you.
I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak on this matter? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Will of council?
So moved.
So move. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. We have a second. Any other discussion? If not, call for the question.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Abstain. The next, we have an ordinance for a partially exempt tax, estate tax. Ms. Butler?
Do we want to have some additional discussion in reference to this tax abatement for Jersey Park Apartments, since it's in the actionable section?
I think maybe Michael could just revise or whatever, or remind us of what we're actually doing here.
Yes, as you know, the Jersey Park and Woods Edge apartment complex are both in the process of being acquired by a new owner. As part of that, they plan to undertake massive renovations to both facilities in the order of magnitude of $8.4 million on Jersey Park and $6.3 million on Woods Edge. As part of their financing package, as they work through HUD and the other financiers, they have asked that we consider a partial tax abatement. And so what this would do is, for the next 15 years, they would be taxed at their current value. So for Jersey Park, that is $3.2 million. For Woods Edge is $2.3 million. As they make their improvements, the increased value that happens because of those improvements, we would abate the taxes on those increased values. So we would continue to receive the same real estate tax amounts that we do now. We would just abate the increased value for a period of 15 years. That will allow them to put additional funds into the project, make additional improvements, and help them secure their financing. So if there's questions, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, there's a resolution in your packet, an ordinance, that would put that abatement in place for both projects.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Ms. Butler, we tabled to this meeting because I was the one that raised the concern. I believe everybody else was in position to vote. I asked for the time so that I could do a study on abatement and come to understand that. I am completely satisfied with my understanding and believe that we can move forward now. So I would like to move that we approve all of those long words and approve the abatement as proposed.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler? Was that me? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have a public, did he have a, wait a minute.
There's no public
Not on
hearing.
the ordinance. This is, it's not
No
on,
public hearing.
Yeah,
yeah, it's not on that.
Sorry. Trying to keep things.
Pretty big quote.
You never know.
We're keeping each other straight.
That's right.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Abstain. Motion passes. Number 6, we have an approval of the summary minutes for the town council. on
Mr. Mayor and
February.
members of council, I've reviewed the minutes and recommend that they be approved as presented.
Do we have a motion?
No, you need a motion.
You made a motion. Do we
I
have a
can't- I
second?
can't make a motion.
Yeah.
We need a motion.
Yeah, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? If not, call for the question.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Motion passes. Have an appointment to a nominated committee to fill the expiring term for 6/30/25 of Faye Seeley and the unexpired term 6/30/27 of Greg Brown on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I would like to ask Ms. Beavermeyer and Darren Cutler to work on that committee.
Mr. Mayor, if just, I can, because they're new council members, I just want to remind them, these are the only committees you don't get to appoint, you just recommend them to the circuit court for approval. So when you come back to the council, you'll be recommending a person to be, the council can vote, and then that's a recommendation to the circuit court. We have to go through a formal process with court order.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any new business before us tonight? If not, do we have any old business?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. You will recall about a month or so ago, after hearing from representative from Smithfield Recreation Association, I made a motion to assist them in abating their debt to the town. And that motion, in a different form, failed. And I respectfully understand why it did, and I've talked to a couple of folks around. And so what I'd like to do today, as a result of Mr. Derek Joyner's appearing before council and further explaining their needs, what they were attempting to accomplish, what was going on, I would like to, at this time, to make a motion to further amend the lease agreement with the Smithfield Recreation Association to reduce and restore or restate the balance due in lump sum payments of $60,000 to be paid in 4 annual payments of $15,000, and to authorize the town manager and town attorney to prepare and execute the amendment.
We have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Any other further discussion?
Just to clarify your language
Yes,
there.
sir.
So your language forgives some debt, it doesn't give a cash payout.
It is no cash payout. It is a forgiveness in totality. Mr. Riddick can correct me if I'm wrong, because I asked for,
That's correct. This is just a,
this is a, go ahead.
the lease itself, Mr. Cutler says that it's deemed additional rent in lump sum. And so this is effectively a reduction of the lump sum rent that is required under there's an initial lease, there's an amended lease. This is the second amendment of that lease.
So we would forgive $15,000 annually for 4 years.
4 years, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Bowman, so what I'm hearing, this would be sort of a good sort of precedent. Any other group that finds himself in a similar situation could come before town council and present their case
I could
for our
answer that.
consideration.
Yes, sir, I can answer that, or the town attorney can answer it, one or the other, but my understanding is, yes, sir, that is exactly correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Call for the question.
Councilman Cutler,
No.
It was Cutler.
Oh, Cutler.
Oh,
I'm
Cutler.
sorry.
Cutler, I thought you said I think she said Cutler.
I'm sorry.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
No.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer,
No.
Mayor Smith.
Motion passes.
Thank y'all very much. And I'm sure SRA thanks you very much as well.
If there's no further
Mr. Mayor,
business to come,
can I make one
Yes.
statement? Ms. Butler, and I would like to see us work similarly with the Smithfield Packers to facilitate reduced use costs for the fields in a similar manner, as well as any other youth group in town that approaches the council, as Vice Mayor alliterated, that, you know, any youth group or any nonprofit agency should come to the town, just as we saw too at our previous meeting with the co-op and another group. So I would encourage citizens in need to come to the council, and I would love to work with you, Ms. Butler, on making a similar resolution.
there's no other business to come before the council. Meeting is adjourned.